Hi, Michelle Ely from the...
No, that's the wrong one. That wasn't what I tried to load.
That show's dead, Steven.
I know.
Technically, it's not dead. It's just
In a coma.
on hiatus.
I'm Josh Liston from On the Bubble podcast, an oral history of television fandom, part of the Gunna Geek Network, just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other awesome geeky shows at GunnaGeekNetwork.com.
This is the official GunnaGeek.com show. Each week we run down the latest news and happenings in the world of geek. These are your hosts for the show, Steven, Chris, and SP.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. Muted myself.
What?
I was distracted because I noticed that I had my mixer set like -4 on the main. Is it clipping everybody? Let me know if it's clipping and then I'll do that again. Yeah, no, I don't know. I must have bumped the overall. What the heck do you call that? The I don't know, the master board mix, whatever. Sounds fine. Not clipping. Let me open up Audacity and make sure it's not clipping.
You were clipping a little bit to me.
Loud, yeah, I'm definitely clipping. All right, that might be better. Loud. No, still a little clipping. Still loud. Oh, I'm clipping there. Okay. Loud.
I was
loud,
just saying, it
loud.
doesn't relate to me.
How are you guys now? Are you okay now?
I've been okay since
It's
All right. I'm
pressed record.
Am I
mean,
clipping?
Chris has been okay.
Loud.
You are not okay.
Loud.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, is there anybody out? Can't keep going. All right. Let's do that again.
I'm Josh Liston from On the Bubble podcast, an oral history of television fandom, part of the Gunna Geek Network, just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other awesome geeky shows at GunnaGeekNetwork.com.
This is the official GunnaGeek.com show. Each week we run down the latest news and happenings in the world of geek. These are your hosts for the show, Steven, Chris, and SP.
Welcome to an all-new episode of your favorite podcast that is titled The Official Gunna Geek Show. I am Steven, and with me, of course, is Chris Farrell.
Roll Tide.
Also, we've got SP.
I've got a good news, bad news, good news scenario tonight. The good news is we've got Josh Liston back with On the Bubble podcast. If you did not pick up that pre-roll, the Get a Geek pre-roll, Josh Liston has entered into what he's calling a season 2. I guess we'll just go with what he's calling it, On the Bubble podcast. And both Steven and I appeared in season 1. Chris, did you appear in season 1?
I did not.
But
Well, that's probably for the best.
I was going to say, you always save the best for later. And so that's what I'm sure is going to happen at some point.
The bad
Yeah.
news is that I ordered a gift for the holidays way back, in late November. It shipped on December 6th. December 26th, it made its way to Detroit, and it's been there ever since. And this is January 11th.
Well, so my dad sent me something that was to tinker with over Christmas. It was a Zigbee hub that was supposed to be flashed. And anyways, so he sent that to me in early December. And then the shipping date he noticed ended up changing from Amazon after it shipped to January as an ETA. And he shipped himself one at the same time. And he got his. And mine has been sitting in Vancouver since December 21st. So it's the same situation. It has arrived there and it hasn't done anything since the December 21st.
Just going to drive down and go pick it up. Meet some superheroes while you're there.
Yeah.
Well, my good news is that Chris has told me that he is getting ready to ship the Xbox Series X to me tomorrow. So I'm
awesome.
really looking forward to that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm totally on it. Once you PayPal me $1,000, I'll send it to you.
No, it was a gift. You're going to send it to me as a gift.
No, he said
That
he was
seems
going to send
unlikely.
you a GIF of
Yeah,
a
I'll make you a
neckbox.
GIF. I've got this real cool app for making GIFs on my laptop now, so I've been making a bunch of those. I'll make you a GIF of it.
Is
That's
it a
easy.
Mac OS?
It is a Mac OS app,
All right,
yes,
All right.
called Claquette.
He's going Apple. He's going full blown Apple here.
He says, as I'm podcasting from a Windows machine, I have a Windows machine on my left, and then I have a Windows machine on my other side on my left.
It all starts with an M1 MacBook Air.
It's my editing machine right now because it's
Mm.
faster than any of my other machines.
Point.
All right, well, let's go ahead and roll into the news.
Roll Tide.
Okay, so fun fact. You know this. I've known SP for a while, right, Chris? It's been a while since I've known him, and you've known him
Correct.
almost the same amount of time as well, if not longer. I learned something new about SP this past weekend, and I think it's going to blow your mind. He's really into space things. And so I know he's even got a news article that he's going to talk about that's space related this week. So I'm in
Shocking.
shock. You're in shock. Let's turn it over
Mhm.
to SP and learn about this new side of SP.
Well, this weekend, I definitely went down the rabbit hole. Chris often talks about going down the rabbit hole and different things. This weekend, I went far down the rabbit hole. I just got suckered into it, and I started learning as much as I could about the state of SpaceX's Starship program. Today is January 11th, 2021. I say this because this is going to change, and this is going to change really fast. So by the time this podcast actually gets produced and is released, nothing against Steven. It's just the things are going to change that fast. So we're going to go with what the status of things are for SpaceX down in Boca Chica today. And we're going to talk about what's going to change rapidly potentially starting tomorrow. So the three main things that I looked at, one was this beautiful drive around tour that Boca Chica gal, those that are in the know, those have been following this. She goes by Mary is her real name, but she goes by Boca Chica gal on all the social media, Twitter predominantly. She lives down in that area, and then she has filmed a bunch of stuff. Well, she took a driving tour around the SpaceX compound, which was great. There was a lot of articles out there about the status of the different Starship prototypes, as well as there is FAA NOTAMs or notice to airmen about potential tests and just a bunch of stuff happening. So let's go down the rabbit hole with me. Bear with me. This is going to be a little bit fun today. There's a lot going on. So first and foremost is that the Starship prototype SN9 has continued its rapid progression to its test flight that's going to mirror SN8's flight. So on January 6, 2021, last week, SN9's 3 engines were fired for about 1 second. I mean, if you take a look at the video, it's about 1.5, maybe 2 seconds, but it was really brief. It was just a and then they went off. So they tested things are working great there. And then yesterday, as I was saying, Boca Chica gal Mary drove around the complex down at Boca Chica. And I'm just saying Boca Chica because I like saying Boca Chica.
I think we need to get a counter for Boca Chicas one day. Just be like, ding, ding, ding.
It could
every
be your
time.
Gonna Geek drinking game, but I would caution you that you might get alcohol poisoning here.
I play with apple juice.
Well, I guess, whatever floats your boat, right? You don't have to have alcohol. Anyway, the current status of SN9, which was out there on its launch pad, basically, SN10, SN11, SN15, as well as the orbital launch pad construction, the repaired Starship landing pad that SN8 had its rapid on-plan disassembly or RUD landing into it. That was all shown. It was really neat. I know. Did either of you two guys, because I posted this in several places, did either of you two guys get a chance to look at that tour?
No, I haven't yet.
Now, it does take 20 minutes. It's a driving tour around the perimeter, so it takes a while, but it's in 4K. It's pretty stable. It's basically, she's driving and it looks like she's holding her phone or camera or whatever out the window as she's driving around, and then people are going around her. Luckily, nobody hits her or anything, but you get to see, and I don't know how much longer you're going to be able to do this because there's privacy fence that's starting to go up around part of the compound, but there is a lot to the compound. Like I said, orbital launch pad. For those of you that don't know where Boca Chica is, if you have a map of Texas and on the very south pointy end of Texas, where it's on the Gulf side there, it's as south as you can get in Texas. That is where Boca Chica is. And from a launch standpoint in Texas, that's the best place that you can be. First of all, you're going to launch to the east, so you're going to go over the Gulf. You're going to be as far south as you can get, which is an advantage when you're launching, because you want to be as close to the equator as possible to take advantage of every single ounce of delta V that the Earth is giving you. So it's not down at the equator, but it's as far south as you can get in Texas. And it is just ready and primed to go. So they're going to be launching this from Boca Chica, Texas. That is great. And there are constructing this huge, you see these huge pillars where the Starship is actually going to be on top. And they're getting ready probably for the main stage of it, BN1 as it's being called. And there is a little bit of BN1 being stacked, but you didn't really see it in this tour. So there's a lot going on. SN9, SN11, SN10, they're all boom, boom, boom. They're going to be going. And there are different stages of construction for SN12, but what the speculation is, depending on the success of 9, 10, 11, they might go straight to 15, which is a complete design change. So we might skip 12, 13, and 14 and just go to 15. And you can see why as the tour goes around. Anyway,
so they're going to take the Windows structure where they just skip over version numbers. Is that what it is?
I mean,
yeah.
better than the Mac version. We're on version 10 for 20 years.
Aren't they on X?
They're on 11 now.
Oh, well then.
Yeah.
Is it 11 or XI?
I think it's 11.
Okay.
It's either 11 or 12. I can't remember what Big Sur is, but they are no longer on the X naming convention, which is neither here nor there. X going to give it to you, though.
Yes.
So getting back to SpaceX here, what is the difference between SN8 and SN9? What is going to enable this to be a success?
Chris asked it.
A number. A number.
The difference is one. One rocket.
Elon Musk posted in a tweet on December 31st that, quote, SN9 will press CH4 header tank with helium. Long-term solution is under debate. Not clear what is lightest/simplest. In the meantime, this temporary solution for the methane tank should prevent the issue of the pressure loss, which resulted in the SN8 RUD event during its historic flight last year. And as of this recording, the first available date for an SN9 launch would be tomorrow, the 12th of January, 2021. We'll get into that in a second. However, SN8 processed a series of 4 rocket engine test firings before its flight, and to date, SN9 has only had the one. So we don't know if we're going to have 3 more tests of the rocket engines or they're just going to light it and go. I don't know what's going to happen here. Regardless, all eyes are on SpaceX's Boca Chica facilities for a potential test flight later this week. Now, I said I'd get into the potential times. There are currently 3 temporary FAA flight restrictions filed with the FAA around Boca Chica. The first is on Tuesday, the 12th of January, 2021. The reason for the NOTAM, or the Notice to Airmen, is, quote, to provide a safe environment for rocket launch and recovery pursuant to 14 CFR Section 91, unquote. On Wednesday, the 13th of January, 2021, there is a reason to NOTAM, quote, to provide a safe environment for rocket launch and recovery pursuant to 14 CFR Section 91, unquote. And on Thursday, the 14th of January, 2021, there is a reason for NOTAM, quote, to provide a safe environment for rocket launch and recovery pursuant to 14 CFR Section 91, unquote. Guys, I think there's something that's going to be going on. Now, they could cancel this depending on how they're going, but they have to file these NOTAMs in advance. So right now they have 3 potential launch windows. There's actually times in those windows. There's 3 potential launch windows starting tomorrow, going to Wednesday, and going to Thursday. And here's the bottom line. If there's one thing that we know from SpaceX is that no matter what happens, it's going to be an entertaining site. It's going to be a sight to behold. It's going to be fun to watch. There's going to be a lot of live streaming. And later on, there's going to be a lot of fantastic video and photography that come out because everybody's eyes are on Boca Chica, Texas right now.
Suncast is going to be watching with bated breath because this is how he gets his next supply shipment, I heard.
This is crazy. Lots of rapid things happening, and all I gotta say is I wonder if we'll get a signal about the different launches. That was a tie into Elon's tweet about anti-WhatsApp. That's what that was.
Talking about signals, if you want to see the telemetry that the launch site gets from the rockets as they're going through their test flight and potential launches, there's some big antennas that are on the site that Boca Chica Gal actually sees as you go towards the one end of the whole site. So you can see how the rockets are going to communicate back and forth with the ground and how they're getting all that telemetry. You know, the video that we're seeing on board the rocket?
Yeah.
It's actually beamed somewhere. Well, it's being beamed to these big antennas that are down there. So if you want to see it, we'll make sure that we link the YouTube. I think it's NASA Spaceflight Now that Mary sells her videos off to, but it was just a 20-minute. There was no audio other than the cars and the wind, and it was highlighted with title text along the way. It was very well done just for the voyeur aspect of seeing what's going on down there. And it's amazing how fast things are going. See construction all over the place. You see these high bays, you see these temporary tents where they're assembling the tanks or the nose cones, and those temporary tents will probably, they're huge, by the way, and they'll probably be going away and buildings be made there. So yeah, lots of stuff going down in SpaceX right now. It's incredible the amount of things that happen in the time that it's been happening, and it's just going to get faster and faster.
All right. And I think this is the question that everybody's wondering is, what is the official SP prediction for explosion count? What's your prediction on that?
I don't think SN9 is going to explode. I think they're going to fix the tank pressurization issue just to see if the landing gear is going to work and the landing systems, because we saw everything work up to the point where it just hit a little hard. They just want to fix that part of the flight. But in order to fix it long term, there's going to be a permanent tank fix, and they just don't have it yet. So my assessment is they're probably going to lose a couple more along the way here, but I don't think SN9 they're going to lose. I think they're going to stick the landing on this one. Besides, there's only so much concrete that you want to pour into that landing site before you have to tear it up and start all over again. So probably want to prevent that.
All right. Well, thanks for keeping us informed on this. This is I have to say, I think that the last 6 to 12 months has really been the most sort of rapid changes that we've seen as you've been covering the space stuff on the Gonna Geek show over the last, I don't know how long we've been doing this. 10 years, 15 years.
It's been really fast. And don't forget, NASA's got the SLS and the Orion development going on, but it's not as rapid. And Boeing also has the other capsule, the Starliner, that's going up to the ISS. It's going to ferry people back and forth up to the ISS. SpaceX has just eclipsed everybody. Now, if SpaceX would have continually had catastrophic failures with the final end result, then things would have been a little differently. But they've been able to just take their knocks as they go, know that they're going to blow some stuff up, but when it really counts, they haven't messed up yet. So yeah, we'll see if that continues. I know there's a lot of safety considerations going on in the industry, people that work for other places going, I don't know if I want to work for SpaceX because of the safety stuff, but they haven't messed up anything important. They lost millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars in rockets, but they haven't blown up anything important yet.
Overall, I think so far you could say that their progress has been a success, unlike Google Stadia. And let's talk a little bit about Google Stadia, because it looks like today LG has announced that they are going to be bringing to their TVs both Google Stadia native support and NVIDIA GeForce Now. So both of these are streaming gaming services, if you're not familiar with them. And you're going to be seeing this coming to the LG TVs, of course, in the 2021 models. But going to also cover some 2020 models as well. This is really interesting to me because for a while, we've seen a lot of these televisions run basically off of an Android TV type platform. That's essentially what they've been built on. And now I think we're seeing the fruits of that labor because you are seeing built-in support for a couple of services. Now, Google Stadia, obviously, Chris has done his review on here. He has put me to shame quite thoroughly on not reviewing Google Stadia. But I think that I could agree with his review is that Stadia is less than desirable. So to me, the more interesting aspect of this isn't Google Stadia itself, is the fact that the TVs have enough hardware in there to be able to support the Google Stadia requirements right baked in, but also the GeForce Now thing. So we'll see what happens with this. It could end up being really, really poor quality or, really unstable. But I like the fact that we're seeing some of this gaming streaming coming in. Maybe it gives hopes that one day the TV will natively support Google or Microsoft xCloud or something like that.
Here's the thing to remember, though. The Stadia clients on your devices, be it your NVIDIA Shield, if you put it on there, you have to sideload to do it. But your LG WebOS TV or any of these other things, the client doesn't really need a lot of horsepower because all the work is done in the cloud. It's basically just pushing a video down to you. So while it's cool that they got Google Stadia working on LG's WebOS TVs, I think we're overstating just what that means because it's just opening a website effectively and then pairing a controller via Bluetooth, or if you have their fancy controller like is sitting behind me, connecting it to your Wi-Fi back to the server. So yes, it's cool, but at the same time, all of these cloud-based streaming services, because I play with GeForce Now also, it's a dumb client on your end and all the work's done in the cloud. So it's neat, but
So bottom line, this isn't going to get you to go all in on Stadia.
No, but I have enjoyed the Stadia argument with the Atari VCS where people were like, my Atari VCS plays Cyberpunk because they're playing on a Google Stadia. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, speaking of Google Stadia, we should first go and say, hey, if you're thinking about commenting on our YouTube video that this angle has been played about Google Stadia, don't do it. We'll just
the angle is when we pretend like we don't know what it is.
Oh.
I purposely didn't go, what's Google Stadia this time? But I mean, maybe next time. It depends on how froggy I'm feeling.
I've got a question for you, Chris.
All right.
Can you play your Google Stadia on your MacBook Air M1?
Yeah. Just go to stadia.google.com on any PC any computer platform, or like PC is the term I want to use, but that's not necessarily right because macOS is different. But if you have a personal computing device of some kind, you can go to stadia.google.com in the browser. I think it doesn't work with iPad currently, but it will work with macOS, Chrome OS, Windows, Linux, all through that URL. I mean, so in that regard, it's pretty cool. And they've got the dedicated app for Android phones and things like that. It definitely needed more time to bake. And that's effectively probably what they're doing with this app on the LG TVs is basically opening stadia.google.com and putting some custom stuff in there to make sure that your controller or your TV remote works properly to be able to select games and stuff like that. So I don't want it to seem like I'm poo-pooing the effort, but at the same time, I don't think it's as difficult as a lot of people are thinking because it's not like you're putting the guts of an Xbox or something in an LG TV. You're running an app that connects to a web server.
So if you put your Stadia in the oven and bake it 3.5 hours at 350 degrees, then it will be ready to go.
I mean, it's possible.
Do not.
If you want me to go for the troll answer, it couldn't get much worse, but I don't think that's fair to say. That's me going for the troll answer. That's not fair. Google Stadia, I think, has matured a lot in the last year. I think there is the beginnings of something that could be impressive there. It was arguably the second most stable way to play Cyberpunk 2077 because they had an optimized version for Stadia, and people reported they weren't having issues running it on Stadia on whatever devices they were using locally, be it a Chromebook, laptop, Chromecast, things like that. So I think it's promising. The question is, though, in the day and age we're in, everyone is rolling out a cloud-based gaming service. Amazon's in it, Microsoft's in it, Sony's in it. Nintendo will probably get into it at some point in time. What's the differentiator for someone to be like, oh my God, I have to go with Google? Because, and here maybe I am taking a shot a little bit. We've seen Google abandon things when it doesn't look like they're going to work very well, or it just has lasted long enough they don't want to maintain it anymore, i.e. Google Reader. And maybe I'm being a bit overly harsh in that. So when it comes to brand loyalty, I don't know that I would have it to Google Stadia if I was going to make that my primary consideration for gaming, because I'd always have that little voice in the back of my head. Oh, if more people don't subscribe, Google's going to kill this service. And then what do you do with all this hardware and all these games you've bought?
Well, bottom line again, I think you're going to buy an LG TV, because it sounds like you sure turned there and you gave Stadia credit, and I think that's why you're going to buy an LG TV.
Well, in all seriousness, they do have some of the nicer OLED TVs on the market.
They do.
And they do have the CX series, I think it is HDMI 2.1, which would be great for my Xbox Series X, because then I could do 4K 120 hertz gaming. But as it is now, I can only do 60 hertz. And then there's also the problem of that I run everything through a receiver. My receiver doesn't support that, and the receivers that do support HDMI 2.1 are pretty buggy right now. So I have no reason to upgrade yet, not even for Google Stadia.
So you have no reason not to send it in the mail to me tomorrow, the Xbox Series X.
I'll send you an Xbox.
Okay.
A box that has X written on it, right?
It's going to be a little box about this big around. It's got a rock in it that I paint black with an X drawn on it.
A rock is a lot tamer than I thought you would put inside.
What did you think I was going to put inside?
Not talking about that.
Never mind. We're a family-friendly show. We can't talk about what I'm going to put in there.
All right, let's talk about the next news article before we get to SP Space Symposium. This is really interesting that this finally was confirmed.
And ironically, will not be family-friendly, despite my just talking about that. So if you aren't aware, Kevin Feige, who is the creative genius, well, he basically runs all of the Marvel Studios stuff right now, has been doing the press tours for the past week or so, because on this Friday, WandaVision debuts on Disney Plus, the first 2 episodes. And side note, critics have seen the first 3 episodes and said they're pretty good, so things are looking good.
Is this a TV show that my brother is doing under his old nickname that he used to use? Juan?
I don't know.
Juan was the nickname he used. Juan Division? I did that
Sure.
for SP. I did that for SP.
I see what you did there.
I could see your brother in something that Disney Plus was making. I mean, he's that good.
Continue.
All right. So Kevin Feige's doing the press tour right now for WandaVision, and he's been asked a bunch of questions. You can go read a bunch of different articles for things he's asked about Spider-Man, things like that. But the thing that jumped out most to me is he was doing an interview with Collider, where they asked about the future of Deadpool in the MCU and what they plan to do with it. And we'd heard a while back there was a writing team that was signed up to do Deadpool. We hadn't heard anything about a release date or much extra information. So he told Collider in an interview, quote, regarding Deadpool, quote, "It'll be rated R, and we are working on a script right now, and Ryan's overseeing a script right now. It will not be filming this year. Ryan is a very busy, very successful actor. We've got a number of things we've already announced, but we have to make it that we now have to make, but it's exciting to have it begin. Again, a very different type of character in the MCU, and Ryan is a force of nature, which is just awesome to see him bring that character to life." Note, he said very different character in the MCU. So he's confirmed it's rated R, exists in the MCU. So I'm sure we're going to get some kind of gags about how this feels like a different universe or something like that. And they can get away with it because they own the rights to all of that 20th Century Fox stuff. So whatever canon arguments people want to have as to how this will fit into canon, it doesn't matter because it's Deadpool. So they'll make a joke out of it and we'll all move on and continue about our merry way. Or they'll use Doctor Strange's multiverse of madness to make it all merge together somehow, is my guess. But I'm really excited on those 2 notes. Rated R. It's going to be in the MCU. And then we've heard before that Wendy Molyneux and Lizzie Molyneux-Loughlin of Bob's Burgers are overseeing it, with Ryan Reynolds helping assist on the script and things like that. So it sounds like they've got a really good team put in place, and they're trying to recapture the magic that this 2-movie series so far had at 20th Century Fox.
Go ahead, Espy.
I wonder if Josh Brolin will be playing Thanos or the other character that he's played in Deadpool.
I mean, they made a reference to Thanos, I think, didn't they? In Deadpool 2, it's been a while since I rewatched it.
Yeah, it
I
was
thought
just
they did a wink and a nod, so it'd be cool if they did.
it was just a reference, but I mean, Cable is such an intricate character in all of the X-Men. He really is, if you read the comics and stuff like that, that I think that Disney is going to need to bring that character forward, and Josh played that character. Josh also played Thanos in Endgame and Infinity War and before. So I don't know what you do. You got the same actor now that's two big characters that are both owned by Disney.
You can do it. You can well, Thanos is done for now. They're not going to come back to Thanos for a while.
True,
but if
but-
they wanted to, you could. I think I can't think of where they did it, but didn't maybe it wasn't them that did it. I thought they did it with two actors or with an actor playing the same role twice.
They probably have in something I'm not thinking of,
Mm.
but storyline wise, it will be interesting to see what they do to kind of explain away things like Cable and the X-Men and things like that, because they haven't planted the seeds in the MCU for that yet. So is it a matter of somehow Deadpool finds himself on our Earth, because we've sort of established that there is a multiverse, so somehow he gets stuck on our Earth from whatever his Earth was? I don't know what they're going to do there, because this will be interesting because, like I mentioned, we don't know anything about the X-Men plans, and maybe they can use this to sort of plant the seeds to see what may be coming with X-Men down the road. I don't know. We're still probably like 2 years, 3 years out from this movie actually happening, between Ryan Reynolds' busy schedule, the pandemic, and Marvel's pretty full slate of movies, where this hasn't been announced yet with an official release date.
Yeah, Ryan's going to be busy this year filming The Proposal 2 and 3 back to back.
Are they doing this for real? Because I don't doubt anything anymore when it comes to movies.
Yes, I was making a joke. There's
Okay.
yeah. How do you do The Proposal 2 and 3 after? I mean, it's one shot proposal and they got married.
Maybe he gets widowed between each movie, and it's a new new lady each time.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think you kick Sandra Bullock to the side though.
Well, I said widowed, not divorced. Deadpool comes in and kills his wife, and they tie it into the MCU.
I can't see that.
Deadpool
it.
killed Ryan Reynolds already.
Yeah.
You know, I am really excited for this. Believe it or not, I've not actually seen Deadpool 2. I keep meaning to. But
Oops, I just spoiled
yeah, it's
you.
all good. No, I've read a lot about it, but I still am really excited about it. Me not seeing Deadpool 2 is just pure laziness. Like I was excited to see it. One thing I'm really interested to see though is the eventual distribution of it with the whole Disney Plus thing and things like that, because
And where they're going to park it?
where are they going to park it internationally? All of those questions.
There's been talk. Well, in the United States, there's been talk of a premiere level of Disney Plus. There's also been talk of sliding it into Hulu, which they own the majority stake in. So there's different things that they could do for distribution, but I don't know what the definitive plan is today. They probably think they have a definitive plan, because eventually you're going to have to distribute R-rated stuff with Disney. I mean, it's just going to be a fact of life. They're not going to be able to stay away from it,
And the
because they do have a few
Yeah,
R-rated.
they don't have
movies.
Miramax anymore to sneak their rated
Yeah.
R movies
Yeah.
out under.
And the reason I'm interested about this is because it's part of the MCU. It's one thing if you're like, hey, here, you can go find your Fox Properties former over in this corner. You find your MCU stuff on Disney Plus. But now you're like, well, you can find most of your Disney Plus stuff or most of your MCU stuff on Disney Plus, but you got to go over here for the other, right? So I don't know. It's just interesting if all of a sudden the MCU ends up fractured.
Yeah, they've been successful so far with the Spider-Man franchise, which is still owned by Sony, and they've been successful into bridging those. I will say they've been successful. Who knows of the future, but so far they've been pretty successful with Tom Holland. And Tom Holland himself bridged the gap and basically told Sony that no, and it worked. So thank you very much, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how long you can keep all those threads going. Remember, the Netflix Defenders series was technically part of the MCU, except for it was never really shown back and forth. And that was fractured just by the fact of Disney bought all the rights up and Netflix canceled everything. I mean, there's talk of Charlie Cox, who played Deadpool, who played Daredevil, coming into the Spider-Man movies, which is Sony. I mean, it's such a roundabout way.
It's about to get even more confusing as there's rumors that they're talking about trying to bring Kristen Ritter onto the She-Hulk series, presumably as Jessica Jones.
Well, yeah,
So,
that makes sense.
It's going to get interesting.
Yeah.
No, it's
Yeah.
just going to get interesting as they figure out what threads they want to pull from those Netflix shows and carry forward. My assumption is those characters will all exist in some way, shape, or form, and they'll kind of just reference vaguely something that may have happened there, and that'll be the extent of it, much like it was before. But
For
yes,
our listeners that might not know, Jessica Jones and She-Hulk are basically friends in the comics and stuff, so it makes sense to bring them together in the show.
Well, and the other thing though, like what I think of, and the other thing though, I think is it's one thing if you're dealing with a back catalog that's fractured because of rights back then, because remember, Disney Plus didn't exist then, but now you've got your own property that you're creating, your own film under the universe, and you want to fracture the distribution. That's sort of the element to me, because you're never, unless they buy up all of the rights to all of the stuff that's ever been done, you're never going to have that in a nice little package.
so I think this is enough years down the pipe that we're overanalyzing what's going to happen at this point in time. Because let's say charitably we're 3 years out from this movie actually premiering. Then you've got at least another 6 to 9 months before it would hit the streaming service. So we're talking almost 4 years before this problem happens. And the landscape is probably going to change. Be it Disney buys out Hulu, Disney takes all of their stuff out of Hulu and decides, okay, we're going to have two different types of Disney Plus, one that is locked down to all the kid-friendly stuff and one that has all of our content. A lot of things could change between now and then. So while I agree with you, if they are following this current model, let's say 4 years from now when they're ready to put this on streaming, I think they'd have a problem. My guess is it's going to evolve, especially as Disney Plus continues to be such a moneymaker for them.
That's fair. That is a while away.
The fun part for me is 2013 SP wouldn't have a clue at how mind-bending this conversation is in 2021.
Right.
And after that many years of podcasting on Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., I actually can partake in discussions like this that make sense because I've been podcasting about it for 8 years.
Well, I look forward to finding out what cameos you both end up with in Deadpool 3, because I heard that you're going to make that happen somehow.
Yeah, Kevin Feige loves me.
It's behind a mask and we both end up dead.
I staple a Hugh Jackman mask over top of my face under the mask to copy Deadpool.
All right, well, let's go ahead and move on to SP's Space Symposium. Why is that not playing? There's no music. Oh, I muted.
Oops.
Not gonna fix it.
This is exciting. Last time I went through the Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, and that was a fun segment to do for me because of my small part in the whole thing at the very end. This week is kind of exciting too. I don't know if you guys had the whole Mark Twain Halley's Comet thing when you were growing up, because I'm older than you guys are, but did you guys have that sort of shadow over everything when you were growing up between Halley's Comet and Mark Twain? Did you guys?
No.
Okay, so I am way older than you guys. So when I was growing up, because Halley's Comet whipped back around, I believe it's every 76 years, it whipped back around, it was 86 years. Anyway, it whipped back around in 1985, 86. And we had a chance to go see it. Now, we, the United States, did not go and see it right away. The Soviets did. And a lot of other people did too, ended up doing it as well. But the Soviets were the first. So we're going to talk about the Soviet probes to go see Halley's Comet. They were called Vega 1 and Vega 2, but they also went to go see Venice. They also went to go see Venus along the way. And in the spirit of Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, they did a gravity assist around Venus to get them to go to see Halley's Comet. Now, Vega 1 and Vega 2 were pretty much identical. They launched just days apart from each other in December 1984, just 6 days apart. And they had landers, but I'm not going to talk about the landers to Venus because that's going to be a whole different segment of Space Symposium stuff. But since they both were the first to go see Halley's Comet, I wanted to talk about them right now because we're talking about orbital or probes, orbital satellites and probes in this segment of Space Symposium. So I'm not going to be talking about the lander or the balloons that they left at Venus to do some science there. Those descent modules we covered at a later date, probably in a couple of years. So Vega 1 and Vega 2, they both weighed about 4,920 pounds apiece, or if you're, Stephen, it's 10,850 kilograms, which, if you're counting at home, is a very, very, very light Tesla Cybertruck. And I say that because it's about 80 pounds lighter than a Cybertruck. So you just take, I don't know, whatever's 80 pounds on board that thing, and you take it out, and then you get a Cybertruck.
Can I just say, I'm so glad you brought it back. It's been a while. Thank you.
Well, we used to talk about a different truck, but no, I'm talking about this Tesla Cybertruck.
It's because we're very progressive here when it comes to our vehicle selections.
It's the hopes that Elon Musk will finally listen to me and say, "Hey, SP, you deserve a Cybertruck."
I think that you're legally obligated to say an alleged Cybertruck because we haven't seen a production unit yet.
Is it a Cybertruck 2077? Because you might have problems then.
Well done.
So the Vega 1 and 2 probes, they were designed in Babakin Space Center, which was a design bureau back then. The way the Soviets did things is they had a design bureau, they had a production bureau, and then they had a different thing a different bureau center, whatever, that would operate it. And in this case, it had two operators, whereas in the United States, you have JPL do the entire thing. They could design it, they could have it built, they could operate it and decommission it all in one. But it was constructed by the Lavochkin, which is in Kimchi, I believe, in the Soviet Union. And then it was operated by an operations center that was in the Crimea at the time. But during the flybys, it was transferred to the Space Research Institute in Moscow. So this thing traded hands along the way. And then sadly, after it was done, it could have still been used. It still had power left, kind of like we're doing with Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 right now, but they just decommissioned it and just let it go because they were on to some other things. Now, it was launched by a Proton rocket. The launch dates were December 15th, 1984 and December 21st, 1984, and they were both launched from the Soviet launch site, which is at Baikonur. It had both of these probes since they were identical. And remember, we talked about the process of if you have one shot to do things in the early days of space exploration, we often sent two identical probes, because you didn't know if something was going to go wrong with manufacturing or the launch along the way, or something might happen in flight. So if you had one shot to do things, you did two probes, which is one of the reasons why we had Voyager 1 and Voyager 2. We talked about all the other probes that were in the past as well. Well, they did the same thing here, and there was just a list of detectors, spectrometers, analyzers that they had on board that were specifically designed to actually see the comet. And they actually had a television camera as well to try to take television pictures. There's a famous event that happened there. So we realized in the 1970s that we're going to have this opportunity to see Halley's Comet. And the United States was focused on the outer planets. The Soviet Union decided to focus on the inner planets, take a loop around Venus, and go see Halley's Comet, which was the first comet that we ever went as a human race to go see. And it was a pretty standard fare for Soviets. Now, there's not a ton of information out there. I searched for a while. I searched for a couple of weeks, actually, to try to find as much information as I could about these two missions. And just because the secretive nature of the Soviet Union, especially in the 1980s, which was one of the heights of the Cold War, there just wasn't not a ton of information out there. Now, the spacecraft looked like a typical Soviet style spacecraft where you got a big bulb on the front, you got a rocket body underneath, or not a rocket body, but like a satellite bus underneath, and you got two huge panels that are out to the side. It also had a shield on it because it was going to get close to the comet. So it didn't want to get hit by anything that was because that's what comets do. They vent stuff into space, and they just didn't want to lose the probes to that venting. So it had shields on board to protect the sensitive instruments from getting a direct hit, at least. So they launched, and then in June of 1985, June 11th and 15th is when both of them had the closest approach to Venus, and they dropped the descent modules, which we'll talk about at a later date. But June 15th or June 11th was just a few weeks before Back to the Future in 1985 was in theaters, because that was July 3rd, 1985. So these probes
Great
were
Scott.
yeah, basically just a couple of weeks. They hit Venus before that. Oh, by the way, Goonies premiered right before they got to Venus on June 7th, 1985. You guys like Goonies?
I've
mean,
never seen it.
We were talking about Josh Brolin.
Yeah, I've never seen it either, I have to say.
Oh, you need to see a little Josh Brolin in that. If you like Thanos, you're going to like little Josh Brolin.
You know
in
what?
Goonies.
I've seen parts of the Goonies, I should say. I have never seen it start to end.
Like I said, I'm old. So you fast forward another year into 1986, and March 6th and 8th is when the probes had their closest encounter with Halley's Comet. Now, to put that in movie terms of timeline, Highlander premiered on March 7th, 1986. There can be only one. Sean Connery. You guys seen Highlander?
I remember I've seen the TV show more than I think I've seen of the movie series.
Again, I'm old. All right. Thanks for making me feel that way.
Well, I mean,
guys.
it was
Okay.
1986 SP. I was 2. I can't really go see Highlander.
I keep forgetting you're that much younger than me. You actually put a shock to my system when you said you were 2 in 1986. I'm like, I'm in college, man. All right. So,
I didn't go to the movies that I remember until 1989, and that was to go see Batman, and my mom wasn't happy about that from what I recall.
all right. So I see these movie analogies fail, but they're going to get better because
But
as we
I
get-
like them. They're good.
the movie analogies are going to get better as we go along with the probes, because the dates will get more into the line of when you actually remember going to the theater, or
There
maybe
you
possibly did go to the theater, or maybe you scammed some things off of HBO on a free weekend. I don't know.
Cinemax, thank you. Cinemax.
Cinemax or Skinemax, right?
Well, I'll plead the fifth right now.
Yeah, okay. So what we're talking about here in March of 1986, Vega 1 approached Halley's Comet, and it turned on its camera. And for the first time in the history of mankind, the nucleus of a comet, in this particular case, Halley's Comet, unveiled itself to the human eye. So it was our first really close look at a comet, was Vega 1 and Vega 2. Now, this was a truly international thing, which is, I mean, with the Soviet Union, it was a big thing back then. Oh, yeah, we're working with everyone, sort of thing. And they really are, because you take a look at the collaborating institutions, it's a large paragraph of nonstop boom, 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 boom. It's a lot of Eastern Bloc universities and Russian universities. There's some French universities in there as well, Germany universities, Polish universities, but there is a bunch of collaboration that happened here. And the ESA did send a probe to Halley's Comet a couple of weeks later, and they were able to use the data from Vega 1 and Vega 2 to make a pretty cool approach as well. So they were taking care of Halley's Comet at a collaborative base, kind of like we're doing with Mars right now. Even though nations are sending their individual probes, the data is shared internationally. So some of the scientific findings from Halley's Comet was we found out it actually had 2 nucleuses. It had 2 big parts of it. There were, when it took a spectrometer reading, you saw 2 dark patches of it. So it wasn't just one ball, it was actually 2 balls. And the theoretical basis for that is just over time it eroded to the point where we think it's going to break up in the next pass or 2, basically. The nucleus was measured at a temperature of 300 to 400 K, which, for those of you that don't get a scale of that, it's much warmer than is expected from an ice body in space. So the conclusion was the comet had a thin layer of ice on its surface, which covered an icy body, a thin layer of, not ice, but a thin layer of rock, which is covering ice below it. So the rock actually kept things warm, kind of like a cooler, where on the outside it's warmer, but on the inside it's cooler, to use a scientific term there. Yeah. And that was something that was found out just by being able to get that much closer, because the telescopes that we had back in the 80s weren't able to get that precise measurements as you were getting close to it. Vega 1 got within 8,000, almost 9,000 kilometers, just under 9,000 kilometers from Halley's Comet. And then a couple days later, Vega 2 did. Now, Vega 2 returned similar data, but the images came back with better clarity because it approached closer, because it was about 1,000 kilometers closer. So it didn't really discover anything new. It was just clearer images that it was able to achieve from it. And that kind of harpens back to the Saturn approach for Voyager 1 and Voyager 2. Remember when Voyager 2 went by Saturn, they said that if they didn't get the right data from that, the Voyager 1 would end up going a certain path and not be able to go through the rest of the solar system. Actually, change that. Voyager 2 went through the rest of the solar system based on Voyager 1's approach of Saturn and the successful data of Saturn. So kind of the similar thing here. It was just on a smaller scale because they only saw 2 bodies out there instead of the entire outer solar system. So this was pretty successful. It was kind of low tech, basically, in the end of things. And the probes didn't last long. They're still out there. They're still in a heliocentric orbit around the sun, but they haven't been turned on since this approach. And shortly after they got all the data in 1986, the Soviets turned it off. And that might have been a sign of the times where they just didn't have the money to keep things going. I could definitely see that, where communism was on the precipice of failing back then in 1986. So I can't blame them, but at the other hand, wow, what a missed opportunity to take some additional readings because you had 2 healthy spacecraft out there. Anyway, so that's basically the high points of Vega 1 and Vega 2. Vega got its name because if you take a look at the names of the Russian names for Venus and Halley's Comet, it started with VE and GA, so it became Vega in English. That's how the probes got their name. So
Damn, I assumed it was Street Fighter 2 Turbo.
you never know. If they were playing it in 1984.
No joke. If the games exist, that's sometimes been the impetus for naming of other craft and things like that. Remember, we did have Bodie McBoatface also, so naming convention is weird.
Yeah, the Sir Attenborough.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's not the Sir Attenborough. It's Bodie McBoatface. If I am on a sailboat, which I've talked about doing at some point in time in my life, and I come up with, close to approach to the Attenborough, I'm calling it, hey, Bodie McBoatface.
Yeah.
As you should.
They will not answer me, but I will call them that on the radio.
Well, thank you for sharing this with us. You mentioned you had you had to Google, and there is, not a ton of information out there compared to some of the other things you've talked about, but you are assuming that it's something to do with the whole, USSR thing. Let me just speculate that maybe they were the first to follow the golden rule of what happens in Vega stays in Vega.
I'm not going to put it past them either, because scientists can be funny guys, ironic, sarcastic, but funny. Yeah.
Chris,
by the way, Nick,
silence.
Yeah, just got the head.
I hate my life.
Hand butt over the head going on there. So next time we're going to be talking about Magellan. You might have heard about Magellan. It was a big probe. It went to Venus, but it was launched out of the space shuttle. We talked about some telescopes that were launched out of the space shuttle before, but this will be the first probe that we talked about that was launched out of the space shuttle. And that was launched in May 1989. So 5 years after the Vega probes were launched. We're moving up in the timeline there. And the next one will be Galileo. The next one after that will be Ulysses. So we're marching down the path here, but I'm excited to talk about the next 3 in particular. And then we get to when we bomb Mars. So there's some exciting stuff coming up.
Are you Magellan?
Suncast.
I am not Magellan. No, I am Stargate.
All right. Well, thank you again for talking about that. I legitimately enjoy this segment every time because I know pieces of space history and always wish to know more, but am too lazy to research more. So thank you.
That's why I did this, because I knew this was a lack of your education in the Canadian education system. And I just wanted to give you that breath of, science and education and technology background that we know that in igloos, you guys just worry about staying warm and catching fish.
You're expecting me to argue with this, but I agree that when I went through the system, I believe that there was problems with the Canadian system. For example, I had to learn a lot of American history. So that's going to go ahead and wrap us up for this show here. Yeah, I said it. We're going to go ahead and promote a couple podcasts because it's been a couple weeks because the last couple episodes ran a little long and I had to cut off the usual promotion time. And I want to take a moment here to talk about what we've all been up to in the last little while as far as our other podcasts go. Let's start it off with you, Chris Farrell, because you guys only took 1 week over on All Things Good and Nerdy, right?
That's true. We did only take 1 week off, and it was the second or third, I guess it was. So we ran up until Christmas weekend, then took a week off because we didn't want to take 2 weeks off because that's no fun. I mean, really, it was just because we wanted a week off, I'll be honest. So we took a week off and we continued our geeky shenanigans, and we came back this week to kind of recap some of the things we got into over the holidays. And pretty much it comes down to we played a bunch of video games and Willie got a crab game.
Oh, a crab game. Very different than that sentence usually starts.
Yes. And if you want, I have the animated GIFs of Willie with crab fingers that we can circulate around the internet from the show last week. That's why you watch the pre-show, because you see the funny stuff.
Can you put them in our Discord over at gonnageek.com/Discord?
Sure.
Perfect. Also, you had a couple of guests, didn't you, over the last month?
Well, yeah, we did have a couple guests over the past couple months.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking.
It's been a while though. That was mostly back in November, early November.
December was a blur for me. Sorry.
No, me too. No problem. I had to stop and think. I was like, did we? I'm pretty sure we just did the normal fare because we couldn't handle guests because we were too.
Is there anything else that you'd like to plug or promote?
Don't forget, we got a bunch of live content here on the Gonna Geek Network. Head on over to geeks.live. Scroll down to the bottom of the page, and you can see a calendar of all of our upcoming live events. Please feel free to come check out some of those other shows and tell them that we sent you.
How about you, SP? What's going on over on Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. lately?
We're going to pivot. This week, we are going to record our final episode of Daredevil. And then next week, actually just a couple of days, because we're going to move our recording time from Thursday nights to Sunday afternoon, and I believe it's at 4 p.m. Eastern. It's either at 4 or 5. I'll get back to everybody next time. But WandaVision comes out this Friday. First 2 episodes are going to drop, so we're going to talk about those on Sunday. We're going to roll right into WandaVision. It's going to be fun. Heard a lot of promising things, as Chris was alluding to before, about WandaVision. So we got that, and then we discovered that there's only 1 week in between WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So we're going to go ahead and take that 1 week and talk all of Punisher season 2 in one episode.
That's a big episode.
Which means that I'm going to have to watch whatever it is, 12 or 13 episodes of Punisher. And we're just going to crunch that into one. Michelle's not worried about it because she's been watching it. She's like, yeah, we can talk about this in one episode. We were talking about doing it in 2 episodes. And then she started watching it like, yeah, we could watch it in 1 episode. So that's what we're going to do. And we're going to watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Then we're going to start to finish off the Netflix Defenders verse following that with Jessica Jones season 3. That will be the end of Netflix for us. And then we'll pivot and move on to whatever else Disney Plus throws our way.
Because when is whatever it's called, the Falcon Winter Soldier, when is that coming out?
That is coming out March 15th,
Okay.
I believe.
All right. So I thought it was a little later than that. So that's actually sooner than I thought.
We did too. And then Michelle started doing a calendar and discovered that there was just 1 week between it, which I think is wise for Disney Plus, because now that they have been out for a while and all the freebies are going, and then like Chris, he's done that 3-year deal for 2 years pricing and stuff like that. They're going to have to start to show some value. So you're going to see some shows that pop up. Plus they got to move the MCU along, and we've got Black Widow that is still slated to come out later this spring, but I don't know. We'll see with COVID the way it is. I mean, shots are coming out, so we'll see if they start to open up movie theaters. And I don't know if we won't talk about the pandemic and possibilities. But when it applies to the MCU, the timing of things where we're talking about the summer is a little different than DC, because DC has decided we're going to release everything on HBO Max, but they have other other motives there, try to hook you into that HBO Max subscription.
Yeah, and Feige did say it's kind of a moving target, the Black Widow release date right now because of the pandemic. In these interviews he's been doing for WandaVision, so it's they're shooting for May. It may or may not happen. No pun intended.
Yeah, May's a little early, I think, with the rollout of the vaccines and stuff like that. But they could do a one and done with Black Widow and say, yeah, we're going to do the same thing that DC does, and we're going to do that same thing with Black Widow, but only Black Widow because we're really close to opening everything up. I don't know. We'll see. It's a moving target, and I'm not going to speculate as to where exactly things are going to be in May.
Over on Better Podcasting, we've got the live show kicking back off tomorrow. We're recording this today on January 11th, 2021. If you didn't know this, SP and I do alternate back and forth. 1 week we do the Better Podcasting main show. The other week is just a live Q&A sort of thing. If you want to check that out, there are multiple audio feeds because some people just prefer one over the other. And we'd love it if you would come by any of the live recordings that are happening on any of our podcasts, because we love the interaction here when we record this show on Gonna Geek. We love it on Better Podcasting, especially on the live chat Q&A, because we like to pull your feedback right there. And I know that Chris loves it when everybody supports him on how terrible the Sony controller is compared to the Xbox controller over on All Things Good and Nerdy.
Boy, did I get crucified for that.
Yeah, you did.
That wasn't even that strong. It was, I just prefer that controller over the Sony one.
It was amusing. I was watching live.
I hear Sony's going to send you a PS5 as soon as you send me your Xbox Series X.
Well, it looks like I'm not getting a PS5. We call that the Willie Nelson approach.
So, for episode number 361 of the official GonnaGeek.com show, I'm saying check out GonnaGeek.com and welcome back on the Bubble Podcast.
Welcome back on the Bubble, and thank you guys, and we'll see you guys next week. Hopefully we'll be talking SN8, SN9.
Welcome, Josh, and Roll Damn Tide.
Say yours again, SP, and I'll edit it.
We'll see everybody next time, and hopefully we'll be talking about SpaceX's SN9.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for checking out another episode of the official GonnaGeek.com show. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review in Apple Podcasts
35 to
17. You can always join us for our live recording sessions, which stream Mondays at 8:45 p.m. Eastern at www.geeks.live. And remember, you can find our full back catalog at GonnaGeek.com/show. If you're itching for more geeky content, check out other shows on GonnaGeekNetwork.com. Voice work was by Emily Prokop of the Story Behind podcast. That's it for this episode. We hope to see you back again next week.
Whoops, wrong button.
Apparently, Chris is right. Roll Tide, 35-17. You're only in the second quarter.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks everybody for coming by. That was fun. It was a good time. Good time to be had. And if you want to check out other awesome geeky content on Gonna Geek, that would be great.
Just play Stadia with me. I'm gonna play Stadia.
Did you actually record it, Steven?
Which?
This show.
Which show? This show?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking around like something went wrong.
Oh no, I was grabbing my my cheapo Xbox controller that I went to try to use here doing the streaming service because I don't know, but it's barely been used. So here, it's a wired controller.
Chris, Kent saying he needs a new Among Us session. You haven't done that in a few weeks.
Because people didn't show up anymore. It was like 4 of us
Oh.
that would show up to play. Kent was one of said 4, but you can't really play Among Us with 4. There is a new map pack coming soon, though, which could spark some more interest in the community. But let me see what I can put together. Maybe we'll do some more Among Us. We've had enough time lapse. People might be interested again.
I think it just ran into holiday stuff. I mean, even though everybody was stuck at home,
That's part of it, Tim.
I think it was just a busy time.
It was probably because it was such a American focused game among US rather than among international.
Nobody
That's
wants
probably
to be
what it
Among
was.
Us right now.
Man, you really hate the United States, Steven.
I do not. Oh, right here. I just cleaned up things today and I even left it right here. I almost put it in the closet, but I specifically left it out. I literally cleaned up the bag that it's been sitting in over the last 2 years.
So let me get this straight. You had the American flag on the floor and you were stepping over it.
No, it was tucked in nicely, safely between my bench and my desk.
Next thing you know, he'll be using it as kindling to start a fire.
God, I knew you were going to take me this way. There's a reason it went in the garbage can this morning. No, I'm just kidding. No, it was. I forgot about this actually until the gag last week on Gonna Geek, and it has been over a year. So, yeah, it would have been.
When
Yeah.
was your trip to the United States?
Yeah,
it was
well,
before,
well,
obviously.
it was before, right? So that's the thing is, it was so it was August, I think. Anyways, it was in the
so
summer.
about a year and a half ago.
No, it was July. It was July of
Definitely a year and a half ago.
2019. July of 2019.
Yeah.
Yep.
18 months.
So it literally
Oh.
sat there after that gag. Well, I probably pulled it out once or twice in between, maybe, but it's sat there for most of it. So.
So I don't think my sister's on here. Anyway, I forwarded the link that you sent on the new, Canadian
Oh yeah,
travel
Yeah.
thing to my sister, and it wasn't met with good, replies.
no, I would
So-
imagine not.
Let's just leave it at that.
If you didn't know this, Canada put in a thing that says you got to have a if you're gonna fly in to Canada, you have to have a COVID test within the last X days. Forget what it is, something like 4 days. You have to have a negative COVID test within the last 4 days. So,
Do you still have to quarantine after?
yes, I believe so.
Yeah. Okay.
I think you still do. But I actually haven't looked much into it, but I did read some headlines that apparently this was causing issues for some Canadians even trying to get home, which
I could see that.
probably.
No, my
been a problem.
brother-in-law is it's half Canadian. My brother-in-law is a dual citizen, so I could see that. He lives in the U.S. He's a U.S. citizen, but he's also a Canadian citizen.
But we've got a big bunch of hubbub going on, both in local politics up to federal politics like the big wave right now in Canada is politicians who were like, hey, remember, Canada says don't go to the States. And then they got busted over the holidays going to the States.
It's okay. We had plenty of our own politicians that were saying, "Don't travel." Oh, I'm going to go visit my family for Thanksgiving in another state. You just told us not to travel.
Yeah, we
The-
had.
yeah, the biggest one was Dr. Birx on that, who is part of the COVID task force for the White House, and she traveled to, to Vermont, I believe it was. And
I don't even remember. I just remember just shaking my head. There were a few politicians out there that did that. I was like, "You've got to be kidding me."
Yeah,
I mean, I don't
course.
care. I stayed in my house. I haven't
Because-
done anything but grocery
because their
runs for
mission
months.
essential.
It's mission essential to go have Thanksgiving with your family, I guess.
yeah. So I don't know. That was the current thing.
Shit, I'd love to go visit my family.
Yeah, I know it's so.
It was
going
a
back.
weird holiday. We did not go visit our family. I was gone. We talked about it before. I was gone in September. I visited my family there, but that was over a couple of weeks. We could quarantine, that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But and the infection rate was a lot lower than it is now. But we knew even back then that we were not going to go see the family. Now, I did go move my son to Madison, so I did see my mom and my sister for a brief period of time. We were all wearing masks. We were social distance, but that it was 2 hours.
I remember
and
Yeah.
That was
when all of this sort of stuff happened back in March. I ran into my cousin at a retail store where he had
That
worked.
sounds uncomfortable. I mean, how hard did you hit him?
It was awkward. I actually literally not just walking my car. I ran into him with my car. No, I ran into.
And then I reversed over him to make sure he was down.
Did I tell you
I
I haven't
don't
seen him
kn-
for years?
I don't know. With your car, it's so small, you might have bounced off him.
That's true. No, I ran into him and he was like, yeah, because he's really close with his folks, right? And he's like, yeah, I gave my mom a hug and said I won't see her for a few weeks. And that was back obviously in March, right? And I'm like, I don't think that a lot of people realize how long it was gonna be.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody and I didn't realize this, even though I went to our lake home in Wisconsin. This 2020 was the first year ever that I have never been in Minnesota.
Oh, interesting.
I've
So-
only gotten gas twice since March.
Are you serious? Wow, I'm impressed. Okay, I cannot see that.
I have the Google Maps stuff on with location tracking so that it'll help me give recommendations and I can do reviews based off places I've been. So it sends me an email each month with the distance traveled. And I kid you not, most months, except for the couple when I had to go to the office where it's 70 miles round trip, I was less than 100 miles traveled in a month because I'm just driving to and from the grocery store or to and from the fast food drive-through I'm going to or something like that. So I have put like no miles on my car since March.
Well, for a while, I was like back, when things were even just completely shut down. I was regularly taking the kids out because I didn't want them to go out and play with the neighbor kids or
Yeah.
have to, explain that. So like I get them to load up their bikes and take them somewhere, or I just go for a drive to get them out of the house. Nowhere, just drive. But I guess we should shut down. We're getting kind of late here, so thanks everybody for coming on by. Come by for the Better Podcasting tomorrow. Come by. You said it is still Thursday this week or Sunday?
Yeah, this will be
This
the
is
last
Thursday.
Thursday.
Okay, Thursday for Legends of Shield, Sunday for All Things Good and Nerdy, and then are you doing Legends of Shield again on Sunday, or are you taking a
Yep.
full gap? Okay.
No, that's what I was saying.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's 4 p.m.
Okay.
Eastern on Sunday.
Okay, so it'll be a squished two Legends of Shield in the next week. Check it
Yep.
out.